Good evening. Hello everyone. So in today's session, the topic that we are going to cover is an important topic as far as your other law is concerned. The topic that we are going to take up is Foreign Exchange Management Act, FEMA. In short, we call this as FEMA. Foreign Exchange Management Act is what we are going to discuss in today's session. I hope I am audible to everyone. Please make sure. Please give me a confirmation in the chat box so that I can make out how many of you are able to hear to me. Hello, students. Yes. So, Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999, a new chapter for CA intermediate level. Of course, it was very much a part of syllabus of CA finals. Now it has been introduced as a part of CA foundation, CA intermediate syllabus. So this is all about foreign exchange. This deals with foreign exchange transactions, using of foreign exchange for various transactions, certain transactions which are permissible, certain transactions which are not permissible, and all other odd things are getting discussed in this particular chapter. Speaking about this chapter, the chapter, if you see the sectional division of the chapter has 49 different sections as a whole. As a whole, Foreign Exchange Management Act, if you see, there are 49 sections. But for us, we have very limited sections, that too from chapter 2 and chapter 1. Certain important definitions are given to us. And from chapter 2, we have some important sections covered in our syllabus in CA intermediate. So we can expect questions, mainly that category of questions which are given in the institute material itself. If you focus, it forms a substantial part of the discussion. Along with that, some other questions and some other topics are to be discussed in this particular chapter. Without wasting any time, I want to proceed ahead and discuss straight away into the discussions on this particular chapter. One important thing you have to understand is enforcement of Foreign Exchange Management Act. So who is going to enforce, or how central government is going to enforce Foreign Exchange Management Act? Through RBI. Though RBI exercises overall control over foreign exchange transactions, enforcement means make people follow law. Make people follow law. This particular part is looked after by a separate department called as Directorate of Enforcement. In short, we call it as ED. You normally be hearing this particular thing in the newspapers and daily updates, current affairs. You might have heard about this particular department called as ED, Enforcement Department. That same enforcement department looks after the implementation of Foreign Exchange Management Act. Enforcement of Foreign Exchange Management. Now, in foreign exchange management, see the foreign exchange management law. If I take foreign exchange management law, it comprises of various components. The first one being the act. Act is the publication of the legislature. Publication of the legislature. We have the act in the form of Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999. Then we have rules and regulations. rules are always done by Ministry of Finance. In case of foreign exchange management, the rules are formulated by Ministry of Finance, and regulations, whatever are there, they are formulated by Reserve Bank of India. They are formulated by Reserve Bank of India. Regulations of Foreign Exchange Management Act are formed by, they are formed by Reserve Bank of India. RBI looks after it. Yes, I'm doing good. Thank you. Yeah. So regulations are notified by Reserve Bank of India in case of foreign exchange management. So the structure of foreign exchange management, if you see here, it is something like this. Chapters are, there are 7 chapters in the entire act. First and second chapter are what we are going to discuss for the examination perspective. Now, important thing that you have to keep in mind are certain important definitions. Certain important definitions given to us, which may be tested in the examination. Direct testing may happen or application based testing may also happen. We can expect both knowledge based question as well as application based question from this particular category. Authorized person. Authorized person means a person who has been authorized for dealing in foreign exchange. Dealing in foreign exchange means selling, buying of foreign exchange. Person who has permission to deal in foreign exchange is called as authorized person. Who will get the authority? If you see there, authorized dealer, AD category dealers ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು. Authorized dealers or money changers, people who are into money exchange, offshore banking unit, that is branches of Indian banks, or any other person for time being authorized under section 10 subsection 1 to deal in foreign exchange or foreign securities. This authority is given to such person by Reserve Bank of India. RBI has the power to give authority to any person to deal in foreign exchange. Where a person gets the authority to deal in foreign exchange, such a person is called as authorized person. One of the important definition. Regarding capital account transaction, current account transaction, I'll come later. We have to see what do we mean by foreign exchange. Next important definition that I have to go for is foreign exchange. Because the chapter is all about foreign exchange management. How central government is going to manage foreign exchange reserve in this country. So what do we mean by foreign exchange? This is also an important definition. Foreign exchange means, the definition is not inclusive, the definition is exhaustive. That means whatever is said, 1, 2, and 3, the definition ends here only. So what does the definition say about foreign exchange? Foreign exchange means foreign currency. They are simply saying foreign exchange means foreign currency. Foreign currency means what? Foreign currency is defined in section 2 clause M, which says foreign currency means any currency other than Indian currency. So in India, if you have any currency that is other than foreign currency, that is other than Indian currency, we will consider it as foreign currency. Not only just foreign currency, there are certain other things to be included to this particular definition. Means and includes. When the lawmaker uses the word means and includes, the definition is exhaustive definition. That means it can include only things that are specifically stated in the section. So includes deposits, credits, balances payable in foreign currency. So if you are a person and you have accepted any deposit, you have any credits, you have any balances which are to be paid in foreign currency, that means outflow will be happening in foreign currency, that will also be considered as foreign exchange. Next, draft, traveler's check, letter of credit or bill of exchange, expressed or drawn in India, but payable in foreign currency, drawn in Indian currency, but you are going to pay in future in foreign currency. That is also to be considered as foreign exchange. Further, draft, traveler's check, letter of credit, bill of exchange drawn by banks, institutions, or persons outside India, but payable in Indian currency. Drawn outside India, but you are going to pay in Indian currency, that will also be considered as foreign currency. So this is the definition given to us in the Act with respect to foreign currency. This is what is the meaning of foreign currency. One more important definition to be kept in mind. Next important definition that we need to see. Capital account, current account, we will see later. Export, simple definition. Export, taking out of India to place outside India any goods. Provision of services from India to any person outside India is also called as export. Export of goods, export of services. Both the things are discussed. Import, bringing into India any goods or services. When you bring to India any goods or services, it is called as import. Person, another important definition, person. Whom do you call as person under Foreign Exchange Management Act? An individual is a person. A Hindu undivided family is a person. A company is a person. A firm is a person. Association of persons or body of individuals, whether incorporated or not. When multiple persons join together and create an association. With that entity, whether it has a name or not, we don't know. Whether it is incorporated or not, we don't know. Irrespective of that, it will be considered as person. Many individuals join together and they do some association. That is also considered as person. Every artificial juridical person, if it is not specifically covered, that is why they are giving this. And as a special point, unlike any other act, this particular observation is being made in this act only, which says any agency, office, or branch owned or controlled by such person. So suppose a person, let us say a company in India, has a branch. Now that branch is also considered as a separate person for Foreign Exchange Management Act. Normally under Companies Act, if a company established in Bangalore, if it has a branch in Delhi, we will not consider it as person. Only the company will be person, not the branch. But for Foreign Exchange Management Act, if one company or one person has a branch, if one person has an agency, that agent or that office or that branch will be considered as separate person in the eyes of law for the purpose of Foreign Exchange Management Act. A unique thing that you have to keep in mind with respect to definition of persons when it comes to Foreign Exchange Management Act. Moving on further, next important thing that we have to keep in mind when it comes to Foreign Exchange Management Act is the residential status. Once we understood the definition of person, we know that person can be an individual, person can be a company, person can be a firm, person can be Hindu undivided family, person can be AOP, person can be BOI, person can be any artificial juridical person, person can be branch, office, or agency of any controlled by any of the persons mentioned above. Once we understood the definition of person, it becomes very important for us to determine the residential status. Residential status means identifying whether a person is resident in India or person is resident outside India. In short, PRII or PROI. A very important observation, and we can expect certain type of questions from this particular area. Person resident in India, an important definition. If you understand this definition, the other definition, that is PROI, person resident outside India, becomes an easy discussion. That definition will be easier for you. Now, what does the definition say? It simply says, person who resides in India for more than 182 days during the preceding financial year. We should see first preceding financial year. If I am going to consider today a person's residential status, first I should check last year whether he was in India for 182 days or not. where a person was in India for more than 182 days. It is not sufficient if he is in India for 182 days. It should be more than. The word is specifically used as more than. It is clearly mentioned more than 182 days during the preceding financial year. The following persons are not persons resident in India, even though they may have resided in India for more than 182 days. Now comes the second test. First test is ask the person whether you are in India for more than 182 days. Now ask the second question for the person to determine his residential status. Second question is why if he is leaving India in the current financial year. See, current financial year, he is not leaving India, then there is no question of categorizing him as person resident outside India. By all means, he is person resident in India only. The challenge is with respect to person who goes out of India. Now, when a person who was resident in India for 182 days in the preceding financial year goes out of India in the current financial year for three purposes. What are the three purposes? Either for taking out an employment, for taking up employment, or for carrying on business or vocation, for carrying on any business or vocation, or for any other purpose. In such circumstances, as would indicate, stay for uncertain period. His stay is going to be for uncertain period ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ಗೆ ಹೊರಗಿರ್ತಾನಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಸರ್ಕಮ್ಸ್ಟಾನ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರೆ such a person will be categorized as person resident outside India. If these three conditions are met, if any of these three conditions are met, if any of these three purposes are met, such a person will be categorized as person resident outside India. Now, in case a person who comes to India or stays in India for these three purposes, such a person will also be considered as person resident in India, where he has not come for any of these three purposes. Then he'll be considered as person resident, a person who has come to or stays in India otherwise than for three purposes will be considered as person resident in India. If he comes for these purposes, he will not be considered as person resident in India. There's a question here. Your institute provides offline classes too. Yes, of course, offline classes are there. This is crash course which we are doing. Crash course for CA intermediate students. Offline classes for CA intermediate students do happen at our branches. We have branches in Udupi and Mangalore. So you can inquire in these branches. In these branches, we have classes going on. Yes. So let me continue. A person who comes to India or stays in India, and if he is coming to India for these three purposes, if he is coming to India for these three purposes, listen to me carefully. If he is coming to India for these three purposes, he will be classified as person resident in India, because a person, following persons are not persons resident in India is what they are saying. Otherwise than they are saying, so 2 minus will be plus. That means following persons are persons resident in India if they have come for these three purposes. If they are coming for otherwise than these three purposes, they will not be considered as person resident in India. So where a person comes to India for these three purposes, if a person has stayed in India in the last year for more than 182 days, in the current financial year is going out of India and is going out of India for these three purposes, the person will be considered as person resident outside India. Similarly, if he is a person who has come to India and he comes to India for these three purposes, he will be considered as person resident in India. So to clarify this, we have a chart given by the institute itself. Let us make a reference to the chart. Whatever chart they have given, let us make a reference to that. So what they are saying, you see here, a person who resides in India, a person who resides in India for more than 182 days during the previous year, during the relevant previous year, he resided in India for more than 182 days. Yes ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಇಯರ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ 182 days ಗಿಂತ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದಾನೆ ಅಂತಾದ್ರೆ next question you need to ask, did he go out or stay outside India during current year? If he did not go out of India or is not staying out of India, then no problem. We will classify him as person resident in India. Done. Now question is, if he goes out of India or if he is staying out of India for those three purposes, ಆ ಮೂರು ಪರ್ಪಸ್ಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಯಾವುದು, ಒಂದ ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಹೊರಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಆರ್ ವೊಕೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೊರಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಅವನ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಸ್ಟೇ ಅನ್ಸರ್ಟೈನ್ ಇದೆ, ಯಾವಾಗ ಇಂಡಿಯಾಕ್ಕೆ ವಾಪಸ್ ಬರ್ತಾನೆ ಅಂತ ಅವನಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಆಗ ನಾವು ಅವನನ್ನ ಏನಂತ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಪರ್ಸನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಅಂತಲೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಅದೇ ಆ ಮೂರು ಪರ್ಪಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಸರ್ ಟೂರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಮೀಟಿಂಗಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾರೋ ರಿಲೇಟಿವ್ಸ್ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಬರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಇಂಥ ಪರ್ಪಸ್ ಆದ್ರೆ, ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಪರ್ಪಸ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಇಂಥ ಪರ್ಪಸ್ಗಾದ್ರೆ he will be classified as person resident in India. So when a question is asked in the examination, first see whether they are saying a person has stayed in India for more than 182 days in the preceding financial year. If yes, then see whether he is going out of India in the current financial year. If he is going out of India for current financial year, ask him, why are you going out? That means in the question, try to find the reason for him going out of India. If it is any of those three reasons, classify him as person resident outside India. Otherwise, classify him as person resident in India. We are not bothered about residential, we are not bothered about citizenship, we are not bothered about income tax residential status. We are purely bothered about how are we classifying based on these three rules. Last year he stayed in India for more than 182 days. This year also he is staying in India only. Then he is person resident in India only. No doubt in that. Now let us come to the other part. Last year he did not stay in India for more than 182 days. Okay. Next question you need to ask. Did he come to India in the current financial year? If no, then person resident outside India only. No problem for us. If he has come to India for those, if he has come to India in the current financial year, ask him, why did he come to India? If he has come to India for those three purposes, he will be classified as person resident in India. He will be classified as person resident in India. If he has not, if he has come to India for other than those three purposes, he will be classified as person resident outside India. He will be classified as person resident outside India. Please give me a confirmation if this definition is clear to us. This is with respect to individuals only. This part is with respect to individuals only. Please give me a confirmation if you have understood this. It is really nice to see so many students joining into the session. At the same time, let us keep a session a little bit interactive. So please make sure you reply in the chat box so that I will be confirmed, or I will be rest assured that you are understanding the concept thoroughly. Hello, my dears. Nice. So there's some time gap between me and you. There's a lag, but still, I hope that you people have got it. Nice to see certain people responding. Very nice. Now, this is about individual part. Individual part is done. Now let us go for other things. Second things. With respect to other than individuals, that means with respect to artificial persons. Natural person part is done. Now let us go for artificial persons. In case of artificial persons, how to determine the residential status of artificial persons? Any person or body corporate registered or incorporated in India. Any person or body corporate, that means company, LLP, or any other entity, firm, anything that is registered or incorporated in India will be considered as person resident in India. If it is incorporated outside India, it will be considered as person resident outside India. Simple. Next, office, branch, or agency in India owned or controlled by person resident outside India. A company is incorporated outside India. For FEMA, it will be considered as person resident outside India. That company has a branch in India. Now, this branch will be considered as person resident in India. For us, branch is also a separate person. Remember this. For us, branch will not take its color from the head office. For us, branch is a separate person. So, while determining the residential status, you should keep in mind if the branch is in India, even though it is controlled by person resident outside India, it will be classified as person resident in India. It will be classified as person resident in India. Now, next one. Suppose Ulta, branch, office, or agency is outside India and it is controlled by person resident in India. It is controlled by person resident in India. Indian company has a branch located in USA. Now that USA branch will also be considered as person resident in India only. That USA branch will also be considered as person resident in India. So to summarize this entire definition, see, only very limited points are there. If you remember these limited points, definitely if one question is asked on this area, you can crack out that particular area easily. So let us recall it once. Person resident in India is the definition we are going through now. So according to the definition given by Foreign Exchange Management Act, a person who resides in India for more than 182 days in the preceding financial year, and person who goes out of India or stays outside India for any three purposes. That means person who goes out of India or stays out of India for the purpose of employment, for the purpose of business or vocation. Vacation Allah, vocation. Vocation means a type of profession only. Yes, occasional things that you do is also a profession, kind of profession. And third one is for any other purpose, period of stay being uncertain. We don't know up to what period we are going to stay outside India. Then the person will be classified as PROI, person resident outside India. Otherwise, the person is classified as person resident in India. However, when a person has come to India or person stays in India, we will ask three purposes. If he has come to India or if he stays in India for these three purposes, for the purpose of employment, for the purpose of business or vocation, for the purpose of some other things, but the period of stay is uncertain, he will be classified as person resident in India. And if any for any other purpose he has come to India, he will be classified as person resident outside India. Next. Coming into next particular part. Thank you for the compliments. It is just to make students familiar with the provisions. Sometimes I keep on using Kannada. Yes. So coming to the next part, we said person resident in India definition we are seeing. Now what we have to say is any person or body corporate registered or incorporated in India is called as person resident in India. Next one is an office, branch, or agency in India owned or controlled by person resident outside India. So, any office or branch. So, this is important. Owned or controlled by person resident outside India. Office must be in India, or branch must be in India, or agency must be in India. Office, branch, or agency outside India, owned and controlled by person resident outside India, will not come under the radar of FEMA. It will not come under the radar of FEMA. So we are not classifying it as person resident in India. We'll be classifying it as person resident outside India. Adre, office, branch, or agency is in India. It is controlled by person resident outside India. I will be calling it as person resident in India. Similarly, office, branch, or agency is outside India, but it is controlled by person resident in India. It is controlled by person resident in India. Then it will be considered as person resident in India. person resident in India. Let us see certain cases that are given to us in this particular criteria. Some of the circumstances. Why I am okay? There is one question. What if person goes outside India for education purpose and has part-time job there? Let me clarify that particular doubt in a while. Please stay back. Please give me 5 minutes because there is one RBI circular for that particular circumstance, a specific case which is addressed by Reserve Bank of India. So let us go for that particular clarification given by RBI a little bit later once we clarify all other things. Okay, please stay with me for time being. I'll give clarity on that part. Please just wait for 5 minutes. Now, if a person resides in India for more than 182 days during financial year 2021, then for the financial year 21-22, the person will be Indian resident. For the financial year 2021, one will have to consider residence during 1920. That means back to back year you need to check. Now, let us take example given to us here. See, if a person comes to India on 1st June 2021 for visiting his parents, comes to India, that means last year he was not in India. He is coming to India for waiting for his visiting his parents. After he comes to India, his parents fall sick and he stays till 31st March. He came to India on 1st June 2021. And after coming to India, he is staying in India till 31st March 2022. Thereafter, he continues to stay. It is, however, certain that he will leave India in next 6 months when his parents recover. It is certain that he is very sure that he is going to leave India within next 6 months. His stay in India is neither for employment, nor for business, nor for circumstances which show that he will stay in India for uncertain period. In such a case, even if he has resided in India for more than 182 days in the financial year 21-22, he will continue to be a non-resident from 1st April 2022. Also, in financial year 21-22, he is of course person resident outside India because we are assuming that 2021 he did not stay in India. So obviously question will come, sir, in 31 March 2022 he stayed. No. So that means whether he is person resident in India. No. I should see previous year. I should see previous year test. First test is previous year test. Second test is condition test. Previous year you pass, then come to second test. Previous year test itself, if you don't pass, don't go for the second test. Classify him as person resident outside India. Classify him as person resident outside India. But remember one thing, institute makes an important observation. I had asked students to make a representation to the institute and get clarity, and all the clarifications given by ICAI say the same thing. So we have to stick to what ICAI material clearly says. So let us see this particular point said in the ICAI material. If a person comes to India on 1st June 2021 for employment, business, or circumstances which indicate his intention to stay in India for uncertain period, he will be person resident in India from 1st June itself. That means according to ICAI, they are clearly saying that if a person is coming to India and if he is coming for those three purposes, don't ask him whether he stayed in India for 182 days or not in the preceding financial year. Straight away classify him as person resident in India. Important point you have to keep in mind. If a person is coming to India, India ke bandidane, India ke barta idane, ask him one question: why are you coming to India? India kya barta idi? If he is telling that he is coming to India for taking up business, if he is coming to India for taking up employment, or if he is not very certain about the period of stay in India, classify him as person resident in India, irrespective of the fact whether he has stayed in India for 182 days or not. 182 days ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟೇ ಮಾಡಿದಾನ ಇಲ್ವಾ ನೋಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. Now, let us see the illustration given to us. Let us see the illustrations given to us one by one. X had resided in India during the financial year 1920. Resided in India for less than 182 days. 1920 less than 182 days. He had come to India on 1st April 2022 for carrying on business. He intends to leave business on 30th April 2021 and leave India on June 31st, 2021. Determine his residential status for the financial years 2021, 21, 22. First thing we have to see. He has come to India in the year 1920. Sorry, he has come to India on 1st April. I should determine the residential status for 2021. First thing I should ask whether he has stayed in India. ಅದನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ವಿ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಸಿ ವೇರ್ ಅ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಇಂಡಿಯಾ. ವಿ ಫಾರ್ ದೀಸ್ ತ್ರೀ ಪರ್ಪಸಸ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಸಿ ವೆದರ್ ಹಿ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಸ್ಟೇಡ್ ಇನ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಫಾರ್ 182 days or not. Automatically he will be classified as person resident in India. So as explained in the above illustration, Mr. X will be considered a person resident in India from 1st April 2020 itself. From 1st April 2020. Don't go and see 1920 whether he has stayed in India or not. Other notlik hogbedi, straight away classify him as person resident in India. As regard to financial year 21-22, Mr. X would continue to be Indian resident from 1st April. 1st April ಆಗುವಾಗ Indian resident. Adre if he leaves India for the purpose of taking up employment or business or vocation outside India or for any other purpose as would indicate his intention to stay outside India for uncertain period, he would cease to be a person resident outside India. He would cease to be a person resident in India and he will be considered as person resident outside India. However, if he is going out of India for any other purposes, then he will be classified as person resident in India. If the purpose of living India, it is the purpose of living India that will decide his residential status from 1st July 2021. From 1st July 2021. Now let us come to this part. Mr. Z had resided in India during the financial year 1920. He left India on 1st August 2020 for United States for pursuing higher studies for 3 years. What would be the residential status during financial year 2021-22? He is leaving India in the year 2021, that too on 1st August. Did he stay in India for preceding financial year? Yes. Is he leaving India in the current financial year? Yes. Why is he leaving India? Is it for those three purposes? No. It is not for those three purposes. Since it is not for those three purposes, by default, I should classify him as person resident in India only. He should be classified as person resident in India. Reserve Bank of India has made a clarification in this regard. RBI ಒಂದು ಕ್ಲಾರಿಟಿ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, based on the customary practice of people who go abroad for studies, RBI makes an assumption that when a person goes out for studies, it is more natural that he will take up an employment abroad. ಒಂದು ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾನೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಲಾ ಅಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ ಅಂತ ಆದ್ರಿಂದ ಅವನನ್ನು ಪರ್ಸನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಅಂತಲೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತದೆ. RBI says that he should be treated as non-resident or person resident outside India. This is because usually students start working there to take care of their stay and cost of studies. To take care of their stay and cost of studies. That is why he will be considered as person resident outside India. RBI clarification indagi, based on FEMA rules, it is very clear he is person resident in India. But because of RBI circular, you should keep in mind this circular number very importantly. ಈ ತರದ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರೈಟ್ ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿ ಇದೇ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಅನ್ನು ಬರೀರಿ. ಸ್ಟಡೀಸ್ ಪರ್ಪಸ್ ಗೆ ಹೊರಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಾದ್ರೆ ಇಮಿಡಿಯೇಟ್ಲಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಯು ಸೇ ಅಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಟು ದ ಪ್ರೊವಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ FEMA he will be classified as person resident in India. However, RBI through its circular AP circular number 45 dated 8th December 2023, it has clarified that students will be considered as person resident outside India or non-residents This is because usually students start working there to take care of their stay and cost of studies. Next, for the financial year 21-22, he would not have been in India in the preceding financial year for a period of 182 days. Accordingly, he will not be person resident in India. Now, VG by Ladka, I don't know exact student's name, but still, I hope the doubt is clear. I hope your doubt is clarified. Person goes out of India for education purpose and has a part-time job. So RBI circular is there. This is the circular we are going to refer to. I hope things are clear to you. See, remember the word used here, not be a person resident in India. It's not, just don't, idan matra odi person resident in India, the classify madlik hogbedi, not be a person resident in India, or he should be person resident outside India. He is not staying permanently there. Sir, permanent stay is not the criteria. Permanent ಆಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟೇ ಮಾಡುವಂತದ್ದು ಕ್ರೈಟೀರಿಯಾ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಪರ್ಪಸ್ ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಮೂರು ಪರ್ಪಸ್ ನೋಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ. ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಪರ್ಪಸ್ ಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾನ. This is not something that we are giving as a permanent tag. ನಾವು ಅವನಿಗೆ ಪರ್ಮನೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಡೈಲಿ ಸ್ಟೇಟಸ್ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು ಪರ್ಸನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾವಾ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಅಂತ. ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಡೈಲಿ ಸ್ಟೇಟಸ್, ಅನ್ಲೈಕ್ ಯುವರ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್. ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಡೈಲಿ ಸ್ಟೇಟಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು. Yes, the next thing we want to carry forward. Let us take one more example. How can he be classified as non-resident? I was telling about the rules which we discussed till now. Based on that, so probably ಇಷ್ಟೊತ್ತು ನಾವು ರೂಲ್ಸ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ. ಆ ರೂಲ್ಸ್ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನನ್ನು ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಅಥವಾ ನಾನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫೈ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ. ನಾನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ವರ್ಡ್, person resident outside India ಅನ್ನೋ word ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಬಟ್ RBI in its circular has used the word non-resident. So we should stick to that particular word given by RBI based on the rule. Okay, next one. Toy Limited is a Japanese company having several business units all over the world. It has a robotic unit with its headquarters in Mumbai and has a branch in Singapore. Headquarters is in Mumbai, branch in Singapore. Headquarters at Mumbai controls the Singapore branch of robotic unit. What would be the residential status of robotic unit in Mumbai and that of Singapore branch? ಕಂಪನಿ ಯಾವ್ದ್ರದ್ದು? ಜಾಪನೀಸ್ ಕಂಪನಿ. ದಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಜಾಪನೀಸ್ ಕಂಪನಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ? ಪರ್ಸನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಅಂತ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಹೆಡ್ ಕ್ವಾರ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಇರುವುದಲ್ಲಿ, ರೋಬೋಟಿಕ್ ಯೂನಿಟಿನ ಹೆಡ್ ಕ್ವಾರ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಇರುವುದಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಂಬೈ. ದಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ. ಆಫೀಸ್, ಬ್ರಾಂಚ್ ಆರ್ ಏಜೆನ್ಸಿ owned or controlled by person resident outside India in India will be classified as person resident in India. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ robotic unit ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ? person resident in India ಅಂತ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. robotic unit will be classified as person resident in India. Next, this branch of India, this robotic unit in India controls Singapore branch. So third observation, office, branch or agency owned or controlled by person resident in India outside India shall also be classified as person resident in India. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಸಿಂಗಾಪುರ್ ಬ್ರಾಂಚ್ ಕೂಡ person resident in India ವೇ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. Even Singapore branch will be person resident in India because of the 2 points given under definition of person resident in India and person resident outside India. ಎರಡು ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳಿಂದಾಗಿ ಹೀಗಾಗ್ತದೆ. I hope it is clear to us. One more important observation to be made. Miss Alia is an air hostess with British Airways. She flies for 12 days in a month and thereafter takes a break for 18 days. During the break, she is accommodated in the base, which is normally the city where airline is headquartered. Airlines in a headquarters ಎಲ್ಲಿಯೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಬೇಸ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ. However, for security considerations, she was based at Mumbai. During the financial year, she was accommodated at Mumbai for more than 182 days. What would be her residential status under FEMA? ಅವಳನ್ನು ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ, ನಾನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ? ಶಿ ಇಸ್ ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಇಂಡಿಯಾ. ಯಾಕೆ? ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ ಏರ್ವೇಸ್ ಇಂದ ಇಂಡಿಯಾಕ್ಕೆ. ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ ಏರ್ವೇಸ್ ನ ಹೆಡ್ ಕ್ವಾರ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಇರುವುದು ಬ್ರಿಟನ್, ಇಂಗ್ಲೆಂಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಇಂಡಿಯಾಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದಾಳೆ. ಯಾಕೆ ಬರ್ತಿರುವುದು? ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಪರ್ಪಸ್ಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತದ್ದು. ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಅವಳಂತ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಅಂತ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫೈ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂತ. ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಎ ಮ್ಯಾಟರ್ ಆಫ್ ಲಿಟಿಗೇಷನ್. ಕ್ಲಾರಿಟಿಯನ್ನು ನಾವು ಈ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರವೇ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಷ್ಟೇ. ಯಾಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಯುನೀಕ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ಡ್. Miss Alia stayed in India at Mumbai base for more than 180 days in the preceding financial year. She is, however, employed in UK. ಅವಳ ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿರುವುದು? ಯುನೈಟೆಡ್ ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವುದು. She has not come to India for employment, business or circumstances which indicate her intention to stay for uncertain period. Under section 2 clause 5 subclause B, such person are not considered as Indian residents even if their stay exceeds 182 days in the preceding financial year. Thus, while Miss Alia may have stayed in India for more than 182 days, she cannot be considered to be person resident in India. ಯಾಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಅವಳು ಇಂಡಿಯಾಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತಾನೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅವಳು ಇಂಡಿಯಾಕ್ಕೆ ಬರುವುದು ಯಾಕೆ? ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಕನ್ವೀನಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಸೇಕ್ ಅವರನ್ನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇಸಿಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಸ್ಟೇ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಅದು ಸ್ಟೇ ಅಂತ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಆಗುದಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಥವಾ ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಅಂತ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಆಗುದಿಲ್ಲ. If, however, she has been employed in Mumbai branch of British Airways, then she will be considered as person resident in India. Then she will be considered as person resident in India. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಈ ಕೇಸಲ್ಲಿ Alia will not be considered as person resident in India. Alia will be considered as person resident outside India. So these are the ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ 2 ಮತ್ತೆ ಇಲಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ 4 ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ರೂಲ್ಸ್ ಗಿಂತಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಡಿವಿಯೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಇಟ್ ಡಿವಿಯೇಟ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಮೇನ್ ರೂಲ್ ದಟ್ ವಿ ನಾರ್ಮಲಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಇಲಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ 2, ಇಲಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ 4, ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಮೇಕ್ ಶೂರ್ ಯು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ ಥರೋಲಿ. ಸೊ ವಿತ್ ದಿಸ್ ವಿ ಕನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ದ ರೆಸಿಡೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟಸ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್. ರೆಸಿಡೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟಸ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಮುಗೀತದೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ನೋಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇರುವ ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್. ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಹೇಗಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಹೇಗಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ. ಸೊ ವಿಲ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಅ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಆಫ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ 5 minutes. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ನಾವು ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ವಾಂಟ್ ದಟ್ ಟು ಓವರ್ಲ್ಯಾಪ್. 5 ನಿಮಿಷ ಬ್ರೇಕ್. ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಇಮಿಡಿಯೇಟ್ಲಿ ಐ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಡ್ ಅಹೆಡ್ ವಿತ್ the things. I'm not going off to recollect whatever I've said now. Then we can proceed ahead and discuss the next topic for regulation and management of foreign exchange.
Let us continue. So here is a question. While counting 182 days, should we consider date of arrival and date of departure? Date of arrival, date of departure, both needs to be counted. Both will be counted. Both are inclusive. So if a person comes to India on 1st July, that day will also be counted. If he leaves India on a particular day, that day will also be counted. Date of arrival, date of departure will be counted for the purpose of 182 days. You will be counting those days very much. Next, continuing further, let us discuss other provisions of Foreign Exchange Management Act, starting from Section 3. Dealing in foreign exchange. What does it say? Section 3. Section 3 puts prohibition. Section 3 puts prohibition on 4 important transactions. It says no person shall. That means prohibition, blanket prohibition. Section 3 puts prohibition. It says no person shall deal in, transfer any foreign exchange or foreign security to any person not being an authorized person. If the person you are going to enter into transaction is not an authorized person, you cannot deal in foreign exchange with him. Dealing means purchasing, selling. It is dealing. You cannot purchase, you cannot sell, you cannot transfer any foreign exchange. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಕರೆನ್ಸಿ ಇದೆ, ಆ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಕರೆನ್ಸಿಯನ್ನು ಅಥರೈಸ್ಡ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಅಲ್ಲದೇ ಇರುವ ಪರ್ಸನ್ಗೆ ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ನಿಮಗೆ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಬೇಕು, ಅಥರೈಸ್ಡ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಅಲ್ಲದೇ ಇರುವ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಹತ್ರ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ನಿಮಗೆ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರಿಟಿ ಬೇಕು, ಅಥರೈಸ್ಡ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಅಲ್ಲದೇ ಅವರ ಹತ್ರ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಫಾರಿನ್ ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರಿಟಿ ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಅಥರೈಸ್ಡ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಅಲ್ಲದೇ ಅವರ ಹತ್ರ ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನೀವೇ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ, ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಒಬ್ಬ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಯಿಂದ ಬರ್ತಾನೆ. he has some dollars. He says ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಗಿಂತ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ರೇಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಡಾಲರ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೇನೆ ಬೇಕಾ ಅಂತ. You cannot purchase dollars from him because he is not authorized person. Authorized person ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಯಾರು? ಯಾರಿಗೆ RBI authorized person ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೆಯೋ ಅವ ಮಾತ್ರ authorized person. ನಮ್ಮ ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್, ಮನಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಇವರೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾತ್ರ authorized persons ಅಂತ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಆಗ್ತಾರೆ. Second one, no person shall make any payment to or for the credit of any person resident outside India in any manner. ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗೆ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿರುವ ಪರ್ಸನಿಗೆ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಿಂದ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾರು? ನೋ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಶಲ್. ಯಾವುದೇ ಪರ್ಸನ್ shall make any payment to or for the credit of any person resident outside India in any manner. ಅವನಿಗೆ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ದೇ ಶಾಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಮೇಕ್ ಎನಿ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಆರ್ ಟು ಸಚ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಆರ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಆಫ್, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಬೆನಿಫಿಟ್ ಆಗುವ ಹಾಗೆ ಅವನ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟಿಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನು ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ಅ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ, ಯುವರ್ ಬ್ರದರ್ ಇಸ್ ಸ್ಟೇಯಿಂಗ್ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ, ಅವನಿಗೆ ದುಡ್ಡು ಕಳಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ ನೀವು ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಿಂದ. ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಕಳಿಸಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತದೆ, ಆ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕಳಿಸಬಹುದು. ಸಿ, the above transactions may carried on as otherwise provided in this act or with general or special permission of RBI. ಈ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಈ ರೀತಿ ಅಲ್ಲದೆ ಇದ್ರೆ, ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, you are staying in India, your brother is staying outside India, you cannot send money to him. You can send it as per the provisions of FEMA, otherwise you cannot send any money to your brother. Suppose your brother has a insurance policy in India, you cannot make the payment of his policy premium in India. ಅವನ ಇನ್ಶೂರೆನ್ಸ್ ಪಾಲಿಸಿಯನ್ನು ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಫೆಮಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಆದ್ರೆ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಬೈ ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ರೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ 3 ವಿದೌಟ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರಿಂಗ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್, ಈ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡದೆ ನಾನು ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಈ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ 3 ಪ್ರೊವಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಇಟ್ ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿ ಸೇಸ್ ಯು ಕೆನಾಟ್ ಪೇ ಟು ಆರ್ ಯು ಕೆನಾಟ್ ಪೇ ಟು ದ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಎನಿ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ. ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗಿರುವ ಯಾವುದೇ ಪರ್ಸನ್ಗೆ ಅಥವಾ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗಿರುವ ಯಾವುದೇ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ನ ಪರವಾಗಿ ನೀವು ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ದೆನ್ ರಿಸೀವ್ ಅದರ್ವೈಸ್ ಥ್ರೂ ಆನ್ ಆಥರೈಸ್ಡ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಎನಿ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಬೈ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಆರ್ ಆನ್ ಬಿಹಾಫ್ ಆಫ್ ಎನಿ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಇನ್ ಎನಿ ಮ್ಯಾನರ್. ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗಿರುವ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ನ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಆನ್ ಬಿಹಾಫ್ ಆಫ್ ಎನಿ ಪರ್ಸನ್ resident in India or by order, order means by directions of any person resident outside India in any manner, you cannot receive any payment. You can receive it only through authorized person. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗಿನವರು ನಿಮಗೆ ದುಡ್ಡು ಗಳಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತಾದ್ರೆ ದೇ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ಸೆಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಥ್ರೂ authorized ಪರ್ಸನ್. ಬ್ಯಾಂಕಿಂಗ್ ಚಾನೆಲ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರವೋ ಮನಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರವೋ ಕಳಿಸಬೇಕು, ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕಳಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಯು ಕೆನಾಟ್ ರಿಸೀವ್ ಇಟ್. ಪ್ರೊಹಿಬಿಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ಆನ್ ಯು. ಅವನ ಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ರೊಹಿಬಿಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಪ್ರೊಹಿಬಿಷನ್ ಇರುವುದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮೇಲೆ, ನೀವು ಅಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಫರ್ದರ್, no person shall enter into any financial transaction in India. Financial transaction means what? Making any payment or for credit of any person, receiving any payment for by order on behalf of any person, drawing, issuing or negotiating any bill of exchange, promissory note or transferring any security or acknowledging any debt. ಇದಿಷ್ಟು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ? as a consideration for or in association with acquisition or creation or transfer of a right to acquire any asset outside India by any person. ಯಾವುದೇ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗೆ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಎಕ್ವೈರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ, ಅಸೆಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಶೇರ್ಸ್ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಇಂಥ ಯಾವುದೇ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಗಳನ್ನು ಎಕ್ವೈರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಆ ಅಕ್ವಿಸಿಷನ್ ಗೆ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರೇಷನ್ ಆಗಿ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಫೈನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಎ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ, ಯು ಆರ್ ಪರ್ಚೇಸಿಂಗ್ ಅ ಹೌಸ್ ಇನ್ ಮಾರಿಷಿಯಸ್. ಮಾರಿಷಿಯಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಮನೆ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. ಈಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ದುಡ್ಡು ಕಳಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುದಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಫೆಮಾ ಅಡ್ಡ ಬರ್ತದೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ದುಡ್ಡು ರುಪೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತೂ ಕಳಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಫಾರಿನ್ ಕರೆನ್ಸಿ ಕಳಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಆದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಫೆಮಾ ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಟು ಫಾಲೋ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೈ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಡೂ ಇಸ್ ಯು ಅಗ್ರಿ ಟು ಸೆಟಲ್ ದಟ್ ಮನಿ ಇನ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ. ಯಾರಿಗೆ? ಆ ಮನೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಯಾರು ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರ ರಿಲೇಟಿವ್ಸ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ನೀವು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಿ. ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ರಾಂಗ್. ಯು ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಪರ್ಮಿಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಡೂ ದಿಸ್. ಯು ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಪರ್ಮಿಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಡೂ ದಿಸ್. ಇದನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಫೆಮಾದಲ್ಲಿ. ದ ಅಬೌವ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಮೇ ಬಿ ಕ್ಯಾರಿಡ್ ಆನ್, ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಯಾವಾಗ? ಆಸ್ ಅದರ್ವೈಸ್ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡೆಡ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್. ಈ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಹಾಗೆ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಆರ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಜನರಲ್ ಆರ್ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ರಿಸರ್ವ್ ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ, RBI ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಅದರ್ವೈಸ್ ಯು ಕೆನಾಟ್ ಡೂ ದಿಸ್ 4 transactions. Which are the 4 transactions that are permitted? Dealing or transferring of foreign exchange or foreign security to any person not being a authorized person, making payment to or making payment to the credit of any person resident outside India, receiving otherwise than through authorized person any payment by order of or on behalf of any person resident outside India, entering into any financial transaction in India as consideration for or in association with acquisition or creation or transfer of right to acquire any asset outside India by any person. These are the 4 transactions that are specifically prohibited under section 3 of Act. It is permitted to do so only as per provided in as per the provision of this Act or with general or special permission of Reserve Bank of India, RBI permission prakara ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. This is what you have to keep in mind under section 3. Coming to section 4, what do they say is, except as provided in this Act, no person resident in India shall acquire, hold, own, possess or transfer any foreign exchange, foreign security or any immovable property outside India. This prohibition is on acquiring, holding, owning, possessing or transferring foreign exchange, foreign security, immovable property outside India, except as provided in this Act. Foreign Exchange Management Act permit ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ you can do this, otherwise you cannot do this. This is what it states. This is section 4 for us. Now coming to another important section, section 5. See, Foreign Exchange Management Act divides the transactions into 2 categories. One category of transaction is called as current account transaction. The other category of transaction is called as capital account transaction. Now, why are they dividing these transactions into 2 categories? It is for convenience of management, convenience of the management. The thumb rule is that, the general thumb rule is that current account transactions are freely transactable with reasonable restriction. Current account transactions are freely transactable. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ರಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ನೀವು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನು. Capital account transactions are more restrictive, subject to certain exemption. Capital account transactions, on the other hand, they have more restrictions and there are only certain exemptions specifically provided in the act. So current account transactions and those transactions other than capital account transactions. Capital account transactions and those transactions with respect to person resident in India which alters his assets or liabilities or contingent liabilities outside India. You are a person resident in India. If a particular transaction alters your asset, alters your liability, alters your contingent liability outside India, ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಆಲ್ಟರ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದಾಲ್ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು, ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲ ಕಂಟಿಂಜೆಂಟ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲ ಕಂಟಿಂಜೆಂಟ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್. ಅದೇ ತರ ಫಾರ್ ಎ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ, ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಲ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಹಿಸ್ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಆರ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಇನ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ, ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗಿರುವವನ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಅಸೆಟ್ಗಳು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿಗಳು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತಾದ್ರೆ ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ದ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್. ಎಸೆಟ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಲ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲದೆ ಇನ್ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಹೇಳುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್. So current account transaction definition, they are simple. What does it say is current account transaction means a transaction other than capital account transaction. Those transactions which are not capital account transactions will be categorized as capital account transactions. ಹೀಗೆ ಜನರಲ್ ಡೆಫಿನೇಷನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ four specific things are included in the definition of current account transactions. Specific ಆಗಿ ಇಂಥ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಒಂದು 4 ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಯಾವುದು? ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ordinary course of foreign trade, other services such as short-term banking and credit facilities in the ordinary course of business, etc. ನೀವು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ಸಿಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಯಾವುದೇ ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಇಂಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದರ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನು ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಬ್ಯಾಂಕಿಂಗ್ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನು ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಲೋನ್ಸ್ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಲೋನ್ಸ್ ಬಾರೋ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಲೋನ್ಸ್ ರೀಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ಆರ್ಡಿನರಿ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫೈ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಸಿ ನಾರ್ಮಲಿ ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್. ಯಾಕೆ? ಲೋನ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳುವಂಥದ್ದು ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್. ಆದ್ರೆ ಇವ್ರೇನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ? ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕಲಿ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ಅಲ್ಲದೆ ಇದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡಿಂಗ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಹಿಯರ್. ದೇ ಸೇ ದಟ್ short-term banking or credit facilities in the ordinary course of business should be treated as current account transaction. Then payment in the form of interest on loans or income from investments. ನೀವು ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗೆ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದರ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ನೀವು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ, ನೀವು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ನೀವು ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗೆ ಲೋನ್ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ರೆ ಆ ಲೋನ್ ನ ಮೇಲೆ ಎಲ್ಲಾದ್ರೂ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ದೆನ್ ರೆಮಿಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಸ್ಪೌಸ್ ಆರ್ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಅಬ್ರಾಡ್. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗಿದ್ರೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಪೌಸ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗಿದ್ರೆ, ಅವರ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗಿದ್ರೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ current account transactions. Expenses in connection with foreign travel, education, etc. will also be considered as current account transactions. Now there is a good example given to us. ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. An Indian resident imports machinery from a vendor in United Kingdom for installing in his factory. ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಒಬ್ಬ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಯಿಂದ ಮೆಷಿನರಿ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಲಾ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಅಥವಾ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಮೆಷಿನರಿ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್. ಯಾಕೆ? ಮೆಷಿನರಿ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲೈಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಅಸೆಟ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅದು ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್. ಆದ್ರೆ ಫೆಮಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕೆ? ಫೆಮಾ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗೆ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗೆ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಅದಾದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅದು ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಇಲ್ಲದಿದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. Hence, since the particular asset is not getting created outside India, it remains unaltered. ಇಂಡಿಯಾಕ್ಕೆ ಬರುವುದು ಮೆಷಿನರಿ, ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನನ್ನ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಿದ್ದೆ ಅದು ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ, ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಬಿ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್, ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ only. So then an Indian resident imports machinery from a foreign vendor for installing in his factory on a credit period of 3 months. 3 ತಿಂಗಳ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ. As per accounts and income tax law, for credit period of 3 months, there is a liability on Indian importer to the UK vendor. ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಇದೆ, ನಾನು ರೀಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, 3 ತಿಂಗಳಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ರೀಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅದು ನನ್ನ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ when it comes to FEMA, they specifically say short term credit facility is nothing but current account transaction only, capital account transaction ಅಲ್ಲ, ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು 3 months ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೆಷಿನರಿ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಅದು ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗುದಿಲ್ಲ, ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್, a person resident in India transfers $1,000 to his NRI brother in New York as gift. Gift ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ. The funds are sent from person resident in India's bank account to NRI brother's bank account in New York. Under accounts and income tax, gift is a capital receipt. However, under FEMA, once the gift is accepted by NRI, no one owns or owes anything to anyone in India or USA. The transaction is over, hence it is current account transaction. So ಇದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ಸಿಗೂ ನಮ್ಮ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟಿಗೂ ಇರುವ ಮೇನ್ ಡಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್. So what do they say? Any person may sell or draw foreign exchange to or from an authorized person if such sale or drawal is a current account transaction. Current account transaction purpose igadre any person may, that means without any restriction, but central government may in public interest and in consultation with Reserve Bank of India impose reasonable restriction. ರೀಸನಬಲ್ ರಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಹಾಕಿಗೆ ಪವರ್ ಇರುವುದು ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ಫೆಮಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಪವರ್ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸರ್ಸೈಸಸ್ ಸಚ್ ಪವರ್ ಬೈ ಇಶ್ಯೂವಿಂಗ್ ರೂಲ್ಸ್. ಅದೇ RBI ಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಪವರ್ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ RBI ಎಕ್ಸರ್ಸೈಸಸ್ ಸಚ್ ಪವರ್ಸ್ ಥ್ರೂ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ಸ್. RBI ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ, ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಿ ಆ ಪವರ್ ಅನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ವೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಕಮ್ಸ್ ಟು ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಪವರ್, ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂಡ್ current account transaction rules. So current account transaction rules prakara central government divides the transactions into 3 categories. First category is transactions for which drawal of foreign exchange is prohibited. You should always remember this list thoroughly. Ee list annu clear agi ನೆನಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಬೇಕು. Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ Schedule 1 ಮತ್ತೆ Schedule 3 ತೀರಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಆಗುವುದು. Schedule 2 ಆದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ little bit lenience you can do. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರೊವಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನು ರಫ್ಲಿ ನೆನಪಿಟ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರು ಸಾಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ Schedule 1 ಮತ್ತೆ Schedule 3 ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಸೊ Schedule 1, what does Schedule 1 say? Transactions for which drawal of foreign exchange transaction is prohibited. Prohibited ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಡ್ರಾ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. You don't have any permission to draw foreign exchange for these 8 transactions. ಯಾವುದೆಲ್ಲ 8 transactions? ನೀವು ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಲಾಟ್ರಿ ವಿನ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಆ ಲಾಟ್ರಿ ವಿನ್ನಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನು ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಾದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಡ್ರಾ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್, ಹಾರ್ಸ್ ರೇಸಿಂಗ್, ಹಾರ್ಸ್ ರೈಡಿಂಗ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಹಾಬಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಬಂದಿದ್ರೆ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಅನ್ನು ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಡ್ರಾ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಹೊರಗೆ ಇಫ್ ಯು ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಅ ಲಾಟ್ರಿ ಟಿಕೆಟ್, if you want to purchase banned magazines, if you want to purchase prescribed magazines, if you want to invest in football pools, if you want to invest in sweepstakes, you are not permitted to draw any foreign exchange. When export is made towards equity investment in joint ventures or wholly owned subsidiaries abroad, Indian company ಅದರ wholly owned subsidiary ಅಂದ್ರೆ 100% ಸ್ಟೇಕ್ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಸಬ್ಸಿಡರಿಗೆ ಅಥವಾ ಅದರ ಜಾಯಿಂಟ್ ವೆಂಚರ್ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಸಬ್ಸಿಡರಿಗೆ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಯಾವುದೇ ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಟವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ಆ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಕಮಿಷನ್ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಡ್ರಾ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. Then remittance of dividend by those companies for whom dividend balancing is applicable. ಯಾವ ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ ಗಳಿಗೆ ಡಿವಿಡೆಂಡ್ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಬಲ್ ಆಗ್ತದೋ ಅಂತ ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ ಗಳು ಡಿವಿಡೆಂಡ್ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡದೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿಯಾದ್ರೂ ಡಿವಿಡೆಂಡ್ ಪೇ ಔಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಡ್ರಾ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. Then payment of commission on exports under RSCR, that is rupee state credit route. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಕಮಿಷನ್ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡರ್ ರುಪೀ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ರೂಟ್, ಯು ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಪರ್ಮಿಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಪೇ ಎನಿ ಕಮಿಷನ್ ಅಂಡರ್ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್. ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಮಿಷನ್ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಯು ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಪರ್ಮಿಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಡ್ರಾ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಟ್ ಪರ್ಪಸ್. You can pay commission up to 10% of invoice value of export of tea and tobacco. ಟೀ ಅಂಡ್ ಟೊಬ್ಯಾಕೋ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ ಅಂತಾದ್ರೆ ಅದರ ಇನ್ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂನ 10% ಅನ್ನು ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕರೆನ್ಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಕಾಲ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಸರ್ವಿಸಸ್ ಆನ್ ಟೆಲಿಫೋನ್ಸ್, ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಕೂಡ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಂಡ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾನ್ ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ರುಪೀ ಸ್ಕೀಮ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ಗೆ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಡ್ರಾ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. You don't have the permission to draw foreign exchange for that purpose. Non-resident special rupees scheme account is for NRIs to maintain some amount in rupees. Rupees ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಇರುವ ಅಕೌಂಟ್. ಆ ಅಕೌಂಟಿನ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸಿನ ಮೇಲೆ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ನೀವು ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಡ್ರಾ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. You cannot draw foreign exchange for that purpose. You cannot draw foreign exchange for that purpose. So schedule 1 ನಲ್ಲಿ 8 ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಗಳಿಗೆ you are prohibited from drawing any foreign exchange. Now, schedule 2, they tell us some transactions for which you will have to take permission from certain department of the ministry. So schedule 2 one, you just read it once. I don't feel it is very important there. So here alle nodu adannu odkolli saku. There is nothing too specifically to tell about it. Coming to schedule 3. Schedule 3 tells us that individuals can avail foreign exchange facility for following purposes within the limit of $250,000. Beyond $250,000, you will have to take permission from Reserve Bank of India. RBI special permission ತೆಗೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. So schedule 3, there are transactions said under schedule 3 which clearly says that individuals can avail. See, this is for individuals. Individuals can avail foreign exchange facility for following transactions, following purposes within the limit of $250,000. $250,000 ತನಕ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಡ್ರಾ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್ RBI ಇಂದ ತಗೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಬಿಯಾಂಡ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಟೇಕ್ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ RBI ಫಾರ್ ಪರ್ಚೇಸಿಂಗ್ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್. ಡ್ರಾವಿಂಗ್ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಪರ್ಚೇಸಿಂಗ್ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್. ಯಾವುದೆಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರೈವೇಟ್ ವಿಸಿಟ್ ಟು ಎನಿ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ, ನೇಪಾಲ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಭೂತಾನ್ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಗೆ ನೀವು ಫಾರಿನ್ ಟ್ರಿಪ್ ಹೋಗ್ತೀರಿ ಅಂತ ಆದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ $250,000 ತನಕ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಡ್ರಾ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಇದೆ. ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಒನ್, ಇಫ್ ಯು ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಗಿಫ್ಟ್ ಆರ್ ಡೊನೇಟ್, you are permitted to draw foreign exchange up to $250,000. If you are going abroad for employment, then you are permitted for drawing foreign exchange. If you want to go for an emigration, if you are going for an emigration means permanent settlement for a foreign country. ಆಗ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ $250,000 ತನಕ ಡ್ರಾ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. If you want to travel for business, or if you want to attend a conference, or if you want to go for a specialized training, or if you want to go for a meeting, then also you can draw foreign exchange up to $250,000. In order to meet your medical expenses abroad, you can draw up to foreign exchange $250,000. If you want to go for a health checkup abroad, or if you want to go as an accompany or as an attendant for person who is going for a treatment outside India, you are permitted to draw foreign exchange to the extent of $250,000. Further, if you want to have any medical treatment abroad, for that you are permitted to have foreign exchange up to $250,000. If you want to study abroad, for that you can draw foreign exchange for $250,000. Other than these specific transactions, for any other transactions which are current in nature, current account transactions are there, you are permitted to draw foreign exchange to the extent of $250,000 without any prior permission of RBI, beyond which you will have to seek prior permission of RBI. So any additional remittance in excess of said limit for the said purpose shall require prior approval of Reserve Bank of India. Now, with respect to point 4, that is immigration. with respect to 0.7, that is with respect to medical treatment, with respect to 0.8, that is with respect to studies abroad. Suppose if the actual expense for immigration, for medical treatment or studies abroad is beyond $250,000, then if it is for immigration, you are permitted to draw foreign exchange according to the laws of that particular country. ಯಾವ country ಹೋಗ್ತಿರೋ ಆ country law ಪ್ರಕಾರ you are permitted to draw without any prior approval of RBI. Prior approval illade kuda you can draw in excess of $250,000 also. You are permitted to draw beyond $250,000 also if the country of your immigration requires you to do so. Further, if you are going for a medical treatment and you feel that $250,000 will not be sufficient, then if you bring a estimate, medical estimate or report from either any doctor or from the hospital, a doctor in India or hospital abroad, anything is fine. If you bring an estimate, then you are permitted to draw foreign exchange to the extent of the cost of your medical treatment. You can draw foreign exchange, no doubt in that. Third one, studies abroad. If your university fees or education fees comes beyond $250,000, then if you bring the estimate of that particular institution, educational institution, you are permitted to draw foreign exchange in excess of $250,000 without any prior approval of RBI. Without any prior approval of RBI. These are the things to be kept in mind with respect to Schedule 3 transactions. Next, however, if an individual remits any amount under the said LRS, this entire scheme is called as liberalized remittance scheme by RBI. This scheme, whatever they say, no, $250,000 you can draw. That scheme is called as liberalized remittance scheme. So under LRS, if any individual remits any amount under the said LRS in a financial year, then applicable limit for such individual would be reduced from $250,000 by such amount so remitted. Suppose if you have already made a gift of $50,000, then for next transaction you are going to undertake in a financial year, same financial year, for the next transaction you are going to take, the limit will be $2 lakh. Suppose you undertake a foreign travel for which you spend around $75,000. You spend $75,000. Now, $50,000 is already spent as gift. 75,000 is already spent for private visit. So 75,000 plus 50,000, 1,50,000 is over. So balance 1 lakh rupees you can draw for the next thing. So in a financial year, $250,000. Once financial year changes, it will get recharged. So again, $250,000 you will get. Accumulate agudilla, it will be $250,000. It will be $250,000. If an individual remits any amount under said, ಒಮ್ಮೆ ನೀವು $250,000 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವಷ್ಟೇ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನು ಸ್ಪೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಮೈನಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಲಿಮಿಟ್ ಅಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಒಂದು ಫಿನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಇಯರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಫಿನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಇಯರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿಮಮ್ $250,000 ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಸೇರಿಸಿ ನೀವು ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿಮಮ್ $250,000 ಡ್ರಾ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. Next, further that for a person who is resident but not permanently resident in India and who is not a citizen of who is a citizen of any foreign state other than Pakistan, or who is a citizen of India who is on deputation to the office or branch of foreign company or subsidiary or joint venture in India of foreign company, ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ, they will be called as resident but not ordinarily resident. Permanently resident ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. Person who is resident but not permanently resident ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. They may make remittance up to the net salary. ಅವರ ನೆಟ್ ಸ್ಯಾಲರಿ ಏನಿದೆ, ನೆಟ್ ಸ್ಯಾಲರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಬರುವ ಸ್ಯಾಲರಿ ಮೈನಸ್ TDS ಮೈನಸ್ PF ಮೈನಸ್ ಎನಿ ಅದರ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಚುಟರಿ ಡಿಡಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಮೈನಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಏನು ಉಳಿತದೋ ಅಷ್ಟನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಅವರು ರೆಮಿಟ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಅವರಿಗೆ $250,000 ಲಿಮಿಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಫಾರ್ ದಮ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್, ಲಿಮಿಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಅಪ್ ಟು $250,000. ಫರ್ದರ್, a person other than an individual may also avail foreign exchange facility mutatis mutandis with applicable changes within the limit prescribed under the said LRS for the purposes mentioned above. So for current account transactions, ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರುವ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಕೂಡ $250,000 ತನಕ ಡ್ರಾ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಆದ್ರೆ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಬಲ್ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಮ್ಯುಟಾಟಿಸ್ ಮುಟಾಂಡಿಸ್ ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಕೆಲವೊಂದಷ್ಟು ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಎಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಅದರ್ ದ್ಯಾನ್ ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಕೇಸಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ ಕೇಸಸ್ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಕೇಸಲ್ಲಿ ಆದ್ರೆ $250,000 ತನಕ ಡ್ರಾ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ನಾವು facilities for persons other than individuals person adre what are the facilities available? The following remittances by persons other than individuals shall require prior approval of Reserve Bank of India. Now, if a person resident in India other than individual wants to make a donation in excess of 1% of foreign exchange earnings during previous 3 years, ಅವರ ಹಿಂದಿನ 3 ವರ್ಷದ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಅರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಅರ್ನಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ನ 1% ಗಿಂತ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಡೊನೇಷನ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಆದ್ರೆ, ಅಥವಾ $50 lakh ಗಿಂತ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನು ಡೊನೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಆದ್ರೆ, ಇದೆರಡರಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಚ್ ಎವರ್ ಇಸ್ ಲೆಸ್, ಫಾರ್ ದ ಪರ್ಪಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಚೇರ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ದ ರೆಪ್ಯೂಟೆಡ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನಲ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್. ಕ್ರಿಯೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಚೇರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಪರ್ಪಸ್ ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ಬೆಂಚ್ ಅನ್ನು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು, ಆರ್ ಕಾಂಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಟು ಫಂಡ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರಮೋಟೆಡ್ ಬೈ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್ and contribution to a technical institution or body or association in the field of activity of donor company, then the company is required to seek prior approval of RBI. 1% of your foreign exchange earnings or 50 lakh rupees, ಇದರೆರಡರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಬರ್ತದೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕದ ಡೊನೇಷನ್ ಗೆ RBI ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಬೇಡ. Beyond that particular amount, you will have to seek prior approval of Reserve Bank of India. If you are going to pay commission to an agent abroad for selling your residential plot or commercial plot in India in excess of 25,000 or 5% of inward remittance, whichever is more, then you will have to seek prior approval of Reserve Bank of India. If you are going to remit consultancy fees for infrastructure project, and consultancy fees per project goes beyond 1 crore dollars, or in case of other than infrastructure projects, if it goes above $10 lakh, then you will have to seek prior approval of Reserve Bank of India. RBI prior approval ತಗೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. Then remittance exceeds 5% of investment brought into India or $1 lakh, whichever is higher, by an Indian entity by way of reimbursement of Incorporation expenses, then also you should be drawing foreign exchange with the permission of RBI only. These are the special conditions in case of special transactions for persons other than individuals. The last part of the discussion that must be taken up here is capital account transactions. The last part is capital account transactions. Capital account transactions are already defined in case of person resident in India. If his assets or liabilities or contingent liabilities are going to alter outside India, it is called as capital account transaction. However, for a person resident in India, I already said, for a person resident outside India, if his assets or liabilities in India are getting altered, it is called as capital account transaction. So these are the things to be kept in mind with respect to capital account transactions. Now, with respect to capital account transactions, there are certain transactions for which there are provisions. So, under capital account transactions, they say person resident in India may hold, may own, may transfer or invest in foreign currency or foreign security or any immovable property situated outside India if the same was acquired, held or owned by such person when he was person resident outside India, or he inherited from person resident outside India. So you are person resident in India. If you want to hold, if you want to own, if you want to transfer, if you want to invest in foreign currency, or if you want to hold, if you want to own, if you want to transfer foreign security, or if you want to own, if you want to hold, if you want to transfer, if you want to invest in any immovable property outside India, then you can do so. If it is acquired by you, if it is held by you, or if it is owned by you when you were person resident outside India, or you inherited this from person resident outside India. Then you can acquire the same. Similarly, for a person resident outside India, he may hold, he may own, he may transfer, or he may invest in Indian currency, in Indian securities, or in immovable property situated in India, if the same was acquired, held, or owned by such person when he was person resident in India, or if it was inherited from person resident in India. Otherwise, if they want to draw foreign exchange, they should abide by the regulations made. So here, for permissible capital account transactions, there are three categories of transactions. One, transactions which are permissible in respect of persons resident in India and outside India. Transactions on which restrictions cannot be imposed. Transactions which are prohibited. Here, transactions which are prohibited are important. Transactions which are permitted are very simple. You can just see both lists can match. You can easily match those transactions. Prohibited transactions are a little bit important. They clearly say that no person shall undertake or sell foreign exchange to or from an authorized person for any capital account transaction. On certain transactions, RBI of India imposes prohibition. They say, subject to the provisions of the Act or rules, a resident individual may draw from an authorized person foreign exchange not exceeding $250,000 per financial year or such amount as decided by Reserve Bank of India from time to time for capital account transaction specified in Schedule 1. So individual can draw up to $250,000, no restriction. Where the drawal of foreign exchange by a resident individual for any capital account transaction specified in Schedule 1 exceeds $250,000 or decided by RBI, the limit specified in the regulations relevant to the transaction shall apply with respect to such drawal. If at all some other regulations are specified in the Act, such regulations will be applicable. However, person resident outside India is prohibited from making investment in India in business of chit fund, in business of Nidhi company, in agricultural or plantation activities, in real estate business or construction of farmhouse, and in trading in transferable development rights. For these 5 transactions, there is blanket prohibition. These prohibitions is for person resident outside India. Person resident outside India cannot invest money in business of chit fund in India, Nidhi companies in India, agricultural plantation activities, real estate business, or construction of farmhouse, or in trading in transferable development rights. Then person resident in India shall not undertake any financial transactions with any person who is a citizen or as a resident of Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Democratic People's Republic of Korea. It is not permitted to do so. So these are the things to be kept in mind, important things to be kept in mind with respect to capital account transactions. This will be more than sufficient when it comes to Foreign Exchange Management Act. So if you recall these many things and if you practice the exercise problems, whatever are given in the ICE material, that will be more than sufficient coverage for completing the provisions on Foreign Exchange Management Act. So if you have any specific doubt, you can put up, I can clarify on that. Then we can proceed ahead for limited liability partnership. Of course, a part of corporate law only, but I will compiling it along with other laws only, and I'll be finishing off important areas in LLP Act. Hardly 10 to 12 sections are there that I want to highlight on. The rest of the things are very simple in LLP. So if you have any doubts, please do let me know. Otherwise, I'll take a break of 5 minutes. Then I'll continue to Limited Liability Partnership Act. So please tell me if you have any doubts in the chat box. I'll clarify the doubts. Then I'll proceed ahead for Limited Liability Partnership, LLP. We have already discussed all these things detailedly. For a detailed discussion, definitely classes will help you out. This is not a detailed session. It is all about crash part. So I am only highlighting that is very important revision classes. So we are not going to cover anything in detail here. So definitely referring to the class lectures is advisable because these are very in-depth concepts that requires a lot of analysis for everything that we are discussing. So we will take a quick break of like say 10 minutes break. I'll be online only. 10 minutes break we'll take. After that, we'll continue for Limited Liability Partnership Act. So session will not be changed, same session. It is just that I'll take a break of 10 minutes. Then I'll continue with the Limited Liability Partnership Act. Next topic for the discussion. Okay, let us restart. The next topic, limited liability partnership. Again, we can expect around 10 marks question from this particular chapter here. Limited liability partnership. Though it is a newly introduced topic, for many students, it is not a new topic at all because already in CA Foundation, you have an introduction part. And when it was your part in CA Foundation, this full coverage was there, whatever is there here. Of course, some sections are newly added here, but majority of the sections were already covered in your CA Foundation. So let us discuss it purely from the examination perspective, certain important definitions and certain important things that students are expected to know. First and foremost thing, there are some important definitions which you are expected to know about limited liability partnership. Then first important definition is body corporate definition. What do we mean by body corporate when it comes to LLP Act? Under LLP Act, body corporate means a company as defined in clause 20 of section 2 of Companies Act. That is, company means a company incorporated under this law and in the previous company law, you say. And includes LLP registered under this act, LLP incorporated outside India, company incorporated outside India. But three things are excluded. Corporation sole is excluded. Corporation sole, when I say a particular office, a particular corpus, or particular office like Comptroller and Auditor General of India, President of India, which has a perpetual succession. It is called as corporation sole. That corporation sole cannot be a partner in limited liability partnership. Cooperative society cannot be a partner in LLP. Any other body corporate which central government may, by notification in the official gazette, specify, cannot become partner in limited liability partnership. Important, because body corporate can be a partner other than these three things. So these three things are not included in the definition of body corporate. So means company includes LLP, foreign LLP, for foreign company. Wrong to say this, because it is not foreign company, company incorporated outside India, foreign LLP alla, LLP incorporated outside India. LLP incorporated outside India, ಮತ್ತೆ foreign LLP ಎರಡು ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ. Both are different concepts. LLP incorporated outside India and foreign LLP are different because LLP incorporated outside India need not have a place of business in India, whereas foreign LLP should have a place of business in India. Business active Indiaದಲ್ಲಿ business place ಇರಬೇಕು, ಆಗ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅದು ಫಾರಿನ್ LLP ಅಂತ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಡೆಫಿನೇಷನ್ ಇದೆ ನಮಗೆ ಫಾರಿನ್ LLP ಗೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ we should be a little bit careful while writing this. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಖಾಲಿ ಇದನ್ನು ಮಾತ್ರ ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಬೇಡಿ. Please read the definition clearly. Important definition, body corporate. Next important definition is designated partner. Designated partner ಯಾಕೆ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, sometimes there will be a question which asks whether designated partner should be a partner in LLP. Designated partner ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾ ಅಂತ ಕೆಲವು ಸಲ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. Answer is there in the definition. Definition clearly says designated partner means any partner designated as such. Any partner designated. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಗೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಆಗಿರಬೇಕು. ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅವ ಡೆಸಿಗ್ನೇಟೆಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಇಲ್ಲದಿದ್ರೆ ಡೆಸಿಗ್ನೇಟೆಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಡೆಸಿಗ್ನೇಟೆಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇಸ್ he must be a partner. Important thing. Next, financial year. Definition of financial year. What do you mean by financial year? Financial year in relation to LLP means period from first day of April of a year to 31st day of March of following year. ಈ ವರ್ಷದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಏಪ್ರಿಲ್ ಇಂದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಷದ ಮಾರ್ಚ್ ತನಕ 31st ಮಾರ್ಚ್ ತನಕ ಫೈನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಇಯರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. However, in case of LLP incorporated after 30th September, the financial year may end. Unlike Companies Act. Companies Act ಅಲ್ಲಿ shall, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಆದ್ರೆ may. Companies Act ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, 1st January ನಂತರ 1st January or after 1st January if a LLP, if a company is incorporated, the financial year will end. Financial year shall end on 31st March of the following year ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮ್ಯಾಂಡೇಟರಿ ಪ್ರೊವಿಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲ. They may. Partners may resolve, partners may decide that they may follow up financial year something else, different financial year follow ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಂತ. Different financial year ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ, the financial year may end on 31st March of next following year. That means if LLP is incorporated on say 30th November ಗೆ LLP incorporate ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ LLP financial year ಯಾವಾಗ ಎಂಡ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ 30th November 2024 ಗೆ LLP 23 ಗೆ LLP incorporate ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ you can say that the financial year will end on 31st March 2025. Normally 24 ಗೆ ಎಂಡ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು, 25 ತನಕ ನೀವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. That permission is there. So here it is May. This is also important to be kept in mind. The word used is May. Foreign LLP, as I said, foreign LLP means LLP firm incorporated, registered outside India, which has established place of business in India. That is also important. ಮತ್ತೆ next important definition to be kept in mind is small LLP definition. Section 2, subsection 1, clause 3A. Section 1, subsection 1, section 2, subsection 1, clause 3A. ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತದೆ? It means a LLP contribution of which does not exceed 25 lakh rupees. Contribution of which does not exceed 25 lakh rupees. ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸಿದ್ರು ತೊಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕೆಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಹೈಯರ್ ಲಿಮಿಟ್ ಇನ್ನೂ ಪ್ರಿಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ. Current prescribed limit is 25 lakh rupees, so you can go with 25 lakh rupees. Contribution of which does not exceed 25 lakh rupees and turnover of which, as per statement of accounts and solvency for the immediately preceding financial year, does not exceed 40 lakh rupees. Last year na statement of profit and loss account, statement of accounts and solvency ಅಲ್ಲಿ turnover 40 lakhs rupees ಗಿಂತ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ಆಗ the LLP will be categorized as small LLP. The LLP will be categorized as small LLP. Turnover of which, as per statement of accounts and solvency for immediately preceding financial year, does not exceed 40 lakh rupees, or which meets such other requirements as may be prescribed. No other requirements are prescribed currently, so whatever is given, that should be sufficient thing. You should be keeping in mind. This is an important definition. Small LLP is an important definition. Applicability of Companies Act. Words, expressions used and not defined in this act, but defined in Companies Act shall have the meaning respectively assigned to them in that act. ಈ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಫೈನ್ ಆಗದೆ ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಡಿಫೈನ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ವರ್ಡ್ ಅದೇ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ಅನ್ನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಅಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. And then non-applicability of Indian Partnership Act, save as otherwise provided. ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕಲಿ ಈ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಆಗ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ಶಿಪ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಬಲ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಇಲ್ಲದಿದ್ರೆ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ಶಿಪ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರೊವಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಈ ಆಕ್ಟಿಗೆ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಬಲ್ ಆಗುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. That is LLP Act ಗೆ Partnership Act applicable ಆಗುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. LLP Act is separate, Partnership Act is separate. Now getting into further things, all these characteristics and all you can by heart, not an important thing. Partners, who can be partner in LLP? And any individual ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, or body corporate may be a partner in LLP. Body corporate ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ company incorporated outside India, LLP incorporated outside India. All these things are called as body corporates. So any of them can be a partner in LLP. However, an individual should not be capable of becoming a partner if he has been found to be unsound mind by a court of competent jurisdiction and finding is in force. Unsound mind ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಫೈಂಡ್ ಔಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಅವ ಇನ್ನೂ ಅನ್ಸೌಂಡ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಹಾಗೆ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ರೆ in that case such a person cannot be appointed as partner in LLP. If the person is undischarged insolvent, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ ಇನ್ಸಾಲ್ವೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಡಿಕ್ಲೇರ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಕೋರ್ಟಿಂದ ಅವನ ಇನ್ಸಾಲ್ವೆನ್ಸಿ ಎಂಡ್ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ, his insolvency has not come to an end, undischarged insolvent, then also the person is not capable of being appointed as partner. Further, he has applied to be adjudicated as an insolvent and his application is pending. Application pending idre, then also the person is not capable of becoming the partner in LLP. These are the persons who are capable of becoming a partner in LLP. Next, minimum number of partners. Again, this can be a possible question, important area. Don't ignore this section, important section, section 6. Every LLP shall have at least 2 partners. If number of partners falls below 2 and LLP carries on business for more than 6 months, while the number is so reduced, the person who is the only partner of LLP during the time that it carries business after those 6 months and has knowledge of the fact that it is carrying on the business with him alone shall be liable personally for obligations of LLP incurred during that period. That period means after 6 months. Obligations of LLP incurred during that period means obligations incurred after 6 months. For the obligations incurred after 6 months, that person alone will be liable. Designated partner part, at least 2 designated partners must be there. Designated partners must be individuals. At least one of them must be resident. Resident means a person who has stayed in India for a period of not less than 120 days during the financial year. Current financial year, he must have stayed in India for not less than 120 days. Suppose if all partners are body corporate or in one or more partners are individuals and body corporate, at least 2 individuals who are partners of such LLP or nominees of such body corporate shall act as designated partners. So a designated partners can only be individuals. So if all partners are body corporates, then they will appoint nominees, 2 nominees. That nominees will be acting as designated partners. Those nominees will be considered as designated partners. To be kept in mind, important. Next. Liabilities of designated partner, what are they liable for, or what is their responsibility? What are they responsible for? Unless expressly provided otherwise in that, a designated partner shall be responsible for doing all acts, matters, and things as are required to be done by LLP in respect of compliance. Compliance of provisions of this act, including filing of any document, written statement, and like report. So this is the duty of designated partners. Designated partners will be responsible for these things. They are liable for all penalties imposed on LLP for any contravention of those provisions. Where LLP contravenes any provisions, if LLP is subject to any liability, penalty, for that penalty, designated partners will be liable. That means designated partners can be held liable. That is what it says. Again, another important provision. Liabilities of designated partners. Coming to the incorporation part. How to incorporate LLP? 2 or more persons associated for carrying on lawful business shall subscribe their name to the incorporation document. The incorporation document shall be filed with the registrar of the state in which registered office of LLP is situated. Along with the incorporation, there should be a statement to be filed that there shall be a statement in the prescribed form made by advocate or company secretary or chartered accountant or a cost accountant who is engaged in the formation of limited liability partnership and by anyone who has subscribed his name to the incorporation document that all the requirements of this act and rules made thereunder have been complied with in respect of incorporation and matters precedent or incidental thereto. There is this declaration should be given. And in the incorporation document, these are the additional things that you are going to state. There's a punishment for making any false disclosure or false statement. If a person makes a statement as discussed above, which he knows to be false or does not believe it to be true, he shall be punishable with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 2 years, and with fine it shall not be less than 10,000, but which may extend to 5 lakhs. So again, another important section to be kept in mind. That is section 11, incorporation document, because there is a penalty clause involved here. The consequence is also there. So both are important. Next important section. Name of LLP. I'll go for section 17, rectification of name. This is also important section. Rectification of name is important. What does it say? Notwithstanding anything contained in section 15 and section 16, if through inadvertence, the word used is inadvertence. Inadvertence means without any intention, intentionally ಅಲ್ಲ, ಕಣ್ ತಪ್ಪಿನಿಂದ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ, because of that. Or otherwise, LLP on its first registration or on its registration by new name is registered by a name which is identical with or too nearly resembles to that of any other LLP or a company. LLP is registered with that of another LLP's name or company's name or a registered trademark of a proprietor as likely to be mistaken, then on an application of such LLP or proprietor referred to in clause A and B respectively, or a company, central government may direct such LLP to change its name or new name within a period of 3 months from the date of issue of such directions, provided that an application of the proprietor of the registered trademark shall be maintainable within a period of 3 years from the date of incorporation or registration. So, in case of company or in case of LLP, there is no such limitation. But in case of trademarks application, if you feel that the LLP's name is matching with some trademark, the proprietor of the trademark is required to file an application within 3 years from the date of incorporation or registration or change of name of LLP. Central government will issue an order. Based on the central government's order, if LLP changes its name or obtains new name, it shall, within a period of 15 days from the date of such change, give notice of such change to registrar along with order of central government, who shall carry out necessary changes in the certificate of incorporation. And within 30 days of change in the certificate of incorporation, LLP shall change its name in LLP agreement. It shall change its name in LLP agreement. If LLP is in default in complying with any direction given under subsection 1, the central government shall allot new name to LLP and registrar shall enter new name in the register of LLP in the place of old name and issue fresh certificate of incorporation with new name, provided that nothing contained in this subsection shall prevent LLP from subsequently changing its name. So all these 3 points are important with respect to rectification of name. So if central government's order is not followed, LLP's name, central government itself will give a new name to LLP and intimate the ROC about that. LLP will issue new certificate, or ROC will issue new certificate of incorporation. So this is again another important section, section 17, rectification of name of limited liability partnership. Next, coming into the next part, partners and their relations. What do they say? Relationship of partners. Again, it is slightly different from Partnership Act because Partnership Act is not applicable to them. So, when in comparison to Partnership Act, there is some difference. What does it say? Mutual rights and duties of partners of LLP and mutual rights and duties of LLP and its partners shall be governed by LLP agreement. LLP agreement and any changes shall be filed with the registrar in such form and manner and accompanied by such fees as may be prescribed. An agreement in writing made before the incorporation of LLP between persons who subscribe their names to incorporation document may impose obligation on LLP, provided such agreement is ratified, approval by all the partners after the incorporation of LLP. So if an agreement is made even before the incorporation of LLP, you can follow the same agreement provided if it is ratified by all the partners after incorporation of LLP. In absence of agreement as to any matter, the mutual rights and duties of partners and mutual rights and duties of LLP and partners shall be determined by provisions relating to that matter as are set in the first schedule. If you don't have any agreement, then you have to follow first schedule of Limited Liability Partnership Act. You should follow LLP Act, first schedule of LLP Act. Next. When will partnership interest come to an end? When will a person's partnership interest come to an end? A person may cease to be a partner of LLP in accordance with an agreement with other partners, in accordance with the agreement with other partners, or in absence of agreement, by giving a notice in writing of not less than 30 days to other partners of his intention to resign as partner. A person shall cease to be a partner of LLP on his death or dissolution of LLP. So this is may. These are options available for a person to cease to be a partner. These are shall. That means mandatory circumstances. Circumstance arise ಆದ ಕೂಡಲೇ ಅವನ ಪೊಸಿಷನ್ ವೇಕೆಂಟ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. A person shall cease to be a partner of LLP on his death or dissolution of LLP if he is declared to be unsound mind by competent court, or if he has applied to be adjudicated as insolvent or declared as an insolvent. In these cases, mandatory vacation will happen. That means he has to vacate the office of partner. Where a person has ceased to be a partner of LLP, that is the former partner. The former partner is to be regarded as still being partner of LLP unless the person who is dealing with LLP has notice of such resignation or notice that the former partner has ceased to be a partner of LLP has been delivered to registrar. If either of these conditions, ಯಾರೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಡೀಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಆದ್ರೆ ಅಥವಾ ROCಗೆ ನೋಟಿಸ್ ಹೋಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಆದ್ರೆ the former partner shall be liable. He continues to be a partner. Third partyಗಳಿಗೆ ಇನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಅಂತ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ. Where a person has ceased to be a partner of LLP, the former partner is to be regarded as still being partner. He'll be regarded as still being partner unless the person dealing with the LLP knows that the person has ceased to be a partner or notice that former partner has ceased to be a partner has been delivered to registrar. The cessation of partner from LLP does not by itself discharge the partner from any obligation to LLP or to the other partners or to any other person which he incurred while being partner. Where a partner of LLP ceases to be a partner, the former partner or person entitled to his share in consequence of death or insolvency shall be entitled to receive amount equal to capital contribution of former partner actually made. So whatever capital contribution he makes and his right to share in accumulated profits of LLP, whatever the accumulated profits are there, in that he can take a share. Accumulated profits will share after reduction of accumulated losses of LLP determined as at the date of former partner ceased to be a partner. So these are the things to be kept in mind. Former partner or person entitled to share in consequence of death or insolvency of partner shall not have any right to interfere in the management of LLP. Does not have any right to interfere in the management. No right to interfere in the management. So this is one more part. Next important section to be kept in mind. Liabilities. Extent of liability of LLP, extent of liability of partner, liability in case of fraud. These are important. Unlimited liability in case of fraud and holding up. These four important sections are there, can be tested easily in the examination. What do they say? A LLP is not bound by anything done by a partner in dealing with the person. If the partner in fact has no authority to act for LLP in doing a particular act, and person knows that he has no authority or does not know or believe him to be a partner. Where a partner has no authority to do a particular thing and he does it for his act, LLP will not be liable if the third person with whom the partner is entering into any contract knows that such a partner has no authority or the third person does not believe him to be a partner in LLP. The LLP is liable if a partner of LLP is liable to any person as a result of wrongful act or omission on his part in the course of business of LLP or with its authority. So for a third person, if a partner is liable for something gone wrong, LLP will also be liable for the third person. An obligation of LLP, whether arising in the contract or otherwise, shall be solely the obligation of LLP. And LLP's obligation shall be met out of property of LLP. LLP a property and use ಮಾಡಿಯೇ LLP a liabilities ಗಳನ್ನು pay off ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. So this is the thing. Next, extent of liability of partner. Partner is not personally liable for any obligation solely by reason of being a partner. Partner ಆದದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ partner ಯಾವುದೇ obligation ಗೆ liable ಅಲ್ಲ, solely by the reason of becoming a partner. It shall not affect personal liability of the partner for his own wrongful act or omission, but a partner shall not be personally liable for wrongful act or omission of any other partner. ಒಬ್ಬ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಅವನ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದ್ರು ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಲಯಬಲ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು, ರಾಂಗ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಲಯಬಲ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು. ಆದ್ರೆ ಬೇರೆಯವರು ಮಾಡಿದ ತಪ್ಪಿಗೆ, ಬೇರೆಯವರ ರಾಂಗ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಗಳಿಗೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಲಯಬಲ್ ಆಗುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಎಟ್ ಆಲ್ ಲಯಬಲ್. ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಕೀಪ್ ಇನ್ ಮೈಂಡ್. Next, these are the points with respect to extent of liability. So it simply says partner is not liable personally because he is a partner, because LLP is all about limited liability. So just because a person is a partner, he will not be personally liable. However, partner may be held liable for his wrongful act. Something he does wrong, for that he can be held liable, but a partner cannot be held liable for wrongful act of other partners. ಬೇರೆ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ತಪ್ಪಿಗೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಅನ್ನು ಲ್ಯಾಬಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಹೋಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಔಟ್. Any person who holds himself out as a partner in LLP is liable to any person who has, on faith of such representation, given credit to LLP. Holding out, estoppel concept. But where any credit is received by LLP as a result of such representation, LLP shall, without prejudice to the liability of the persons who are representing himself or represented to be a partner, be liable to the extent of credit received by it or any financial benefit derived or thereon. So, unlike Partnership Act, what it says is, suppose a person represents himself as a partner to third party. Believing the representation of such person, third party enters into contract with LLP. Third party enters into contract with LLP. Third party gives loan to LLP. Let us say. Third party gives loan to LLP. That person who has wrongly represented, for what he has done, for wrong representation, he will suffer. If any punishment is that he will be punished. But if LLP has taken any benefit because of that wrong representation, someone does the wrong representation and LLP is benefited because of it, then for the extent of what benefit LLP has taken, LLP will continue to be liable. LLP ಯಾವ benefit ತಗೊಂಡಿದೆಯೋ ಆ benefit ಗೆ LLP liable ಆಗ್ತದೆ. LLP shall continue to be liable for the benefit derived by limited liability partnership. And last one is, in case of fraud, in the event of an act carried out by LLP or any of its partner with the intent to defraud the creditors of LLP or any other person or for any fraudulent purpose, LLP and partners shall be, the liability of LLP and partners who acted with intent to defraud the creditors or any fraudulent purpose shall be unlimited for all or any of the debts and other liabilities of LLP. However, in case of any such act is carried out by LLP, LLP is liable to same extent as the partner unless it is established by LLP that such act was without the knowledge of LLP. Partner ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡಿದಾನೆ, LLP ಕೂಡ liable ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಆದರೆ if LLP can prove that the act done by partner was without the authority of LLP, then for such a fraud, only partner will be liable and not LLP. Where any business is carried on with such intent or for the purpose, every person was knowingly a party and carrying on such business in the manner aforesaid shall be punishable with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 5 years and with fine which shall not be less than 50,000 rupees, but which may extend to 5 lakh rupees. Punishment for fraud in case of LLP is this. Where a LLP or a partner or a designated partner or employee of LLP has conducted the affairs of the LLP in a fraudulent manner, then without prejudice to any criminal proceedings, LLP and any partner or designated partner or employee shall be liable to pay compensation to any person who has suffered any loss. So this is criminal liability. This is civil liability. This is civil liability, criminal liability and civil liability for fraud. One is criminal liability, it says imprisonment and fine, whereas the other one is civil liability, which says compensation. One is civil liability, which says compensation. You are going to compensate. Next, whistleblowing important. Financial disclosures important. Section 34. What does it say? proper books of accounts. LLP shall maintain proper books of accounts relating to affairs for each year of its existence. ಯಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಇಯರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ LLP ಎಕ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇತ್ತು ಆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇಯರ್ ನ ಫೈನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನು ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಮಾಡುವ ಹಾಗೆ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ ಬುಕ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. It shall be maintained on cash basis or accrual basis. Unlike your Companies Act, cash basis or accrual basis. In case of Companies Act, it is only accrual basis, whereas in case of LLP, it can be either cash basis or accrual basis. Both are okay for us. According to double entry system of accounting, debit aspect, credit aspect, double entry system alli record ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. Shall maintain the same at its registered office, place of maintenance, registered office for such period as may be prescribed. Statement of accounts and solvency. Every LLP shall, within a period of 6 months from the end of financial year, each financial year, prepare statement of accounts and solvency for the said financial year. Such statement shall be signed by designated partners of LLP. Signing of statement of accounts and solvency will be done by designated partners. Every LLP shall file within prescribed time statement of accounts and solvency with the registrar every year. Filing kuda agbeku. The accounts of LLP shall be audited in accordance with the such rules as may be prescribed. However, central government may, by notification in the official gazette, exempt any class or classes of LLP from the requirement of this subsection. Penalty for non-compliance of provision of subsection 3, that is not filing of statement of accounts and solvency with ROC. LLP shall be liable to a penalty of 100 per day subject to a maximum of 1 lakh. Designated partner shall be liable to a penalty of 100 per day subject to a maximum of 50,000 rupees. Penalty for non-compliance of provisions of 1, 2 and 4, that is not maintaining the books of accounts, not preparing the statement of accounts and solvency, not getting done the audit. LLP not less than 25,000 rupees, which may extend to 5 lakh rupees. Designated partner not less than 10,000 rupees, which may extend to 1 lakh rupees. Central government may prescribe accounting standards, auditing standards. Annual returns. Every LLP shall file an annual return duly authenticated by the registrar within 60 days of closure of financial year. Financial year close agi 60 days ಒಳಗೆ ಫೈಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲದಿದ್ರೆ ಪೆನಾಲ್ಟಿ ಬರ್ತದೆ. Same penalty will be attracted. If any written statement or other document required by or for the purpose of any provisions of this act, any person makes a statement which is false in material particulars, knowing it to be false, or omits any material facts knowing it to be material, he shall be punishable with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 2 years, and shall also be liable to fine which may extend to 5 lakh rupees, but which shall not be less than 1 lakh rupees. Minimum fine 1 lakh rupees, maximum 5 lakh rupees. This is penalty for false statement. Another important section. Next is compounding of offenses. You should understand there are some things you have to remember when it comes to compounding of offenses. Compounding of offenses means instead of taking the process of prosecution, instead of prosecuting someone, instead of getting through the process of prosecution, what you do is you settle the matter at a regional director level. So here what you are doing is the power of prosecution is given to regional director. The power of prosecution, the power of compounding is given to regional director, not prosecution. The power of compounding is given to regional director. What type of offenses are getting compounded? Any offenses which is punishable with fine only. If there is any offense under LLP Act that is punishable with fine only, such offense will be compounded from a person reasonably suspected of having committed the offense, a sum which may extend to amount of maximum fine provided, but shall not be lower than minimum amount of fine amount provided for the offense. So what regional director will do is regional director will impose a fine. Of course, not fine. He'll collect the amount. The fine is always imposed by court. So here court is not imposing the fine. Rather, regional director will collect the amount. That amount, what he is collecting as a punishment, will not be less than minimum amount of fine imposed for that particular act. Maximum, it shall not be maximum amount of fine imposable in that particular case. Now, what is the procedure for compounding? One more thing is, once an offense is compounded, the same shall not be compounded for next 3 years. Next 3 years, it will not be compounded. After that, if same offense is committed,
it will be compounded. So similar offense committed by him shall not be within a period of 3 years shall not be compounded. Application for compounding shall be filed with registrar. Registrar will comment on that and he shall forward it to regional director. So that is the procedure for compounding. Once compounding is complete, if any prosecution is already instituted or initiated, that should be dropped. If no prosecution is initiated, no fresh prosecution shall be initiated in that case. No fresh prosecution shall be initiated. So this is what is to be kept in mind with respect to prosecution. Next, partners transferable interest. Partnership interest, whatever is there in LLP. If you are a partner in LLP, the interest of your LLP is transferable. It can be transferred. The rights of a partner to share profits and losses of LLP and to receive distribution in accordance with the LLP agreement are transferable, either wholly or in part. Adre, the transfer of any right by pursuance of subsection 1 does not by itself disassociate a partner or dissolve or wind up LLP. So just because you have transferred your interest, it will not make you ex-partner. It will not make you former partner. You will continue to be a partner only. But only thing is that your interest will be transferred to other person. The transfer of right pursuant to this section does not by itself entitle transferee or assignee to participate in the management. He cannot participate or access information concerning the transaction of LLP. So whatever your right of shares is there, that can be received by such person, but he doesn't have any right to interfere into the business. He doesn't have the right to access the information of limited liability partnership. Same like partnership act, similar to partnership act. Conversion part are dealt by schedules. Schedules will tell us with respect to conversion, not important. Compromise arrangement, reconstruction, not very important. You can ignore it. So circumstances in which LLP may be wound up by tribunal, grounds are important. Circumstances under which LLP can be wound up. If LLP decides that LLP shall be wound up by tribunal, if there is an agreement between partners that LLP shall be wound up by tribunal. If for a period of more than 6 months, number of partners of LLP are reduced below 2, then also LLP can be wound up by tribunal. If LLP has acted against the interest of sovereignty and integrity of the country, security of the state or public order, then also LLP can be wound up. If LLP has made a default in filing with the registrar, the statement of accounts and solvency or annual returns for a 5 consecutive financial years, then also LLP can be wound up. If tribunal is of opinion that it is just and equitable that the LLP be wound up, then also LLP can be wound up. In all these circumstances, tribunal can wind up LLP. Section 64 is important. Grounds for winding up of LLP by tribunal. Under what and all circumstances LLP will be wound up by tribunal. Important. Application of provision of Companies Act. What does it say? Central government may, by notification in the official gazette, direct that any provision of Companies Act specified in the notification shall apply to LLP, shall apply to any LLP with such exception, modification, and adoption as may be specified. A copy of every notification proposed to be issued under subsection 1 shall be laid in draft before each house of the parliament while it is in session for a total period of 30 days, which may be comprised in one session or in 2 or more successive sessions. And if before the expiry of session, immediately following the session or successive sessions aforesaid, both houses agree in disapproving the issue of notification, or both houses agree in making any modification in the notification, notification shall not be issued, or as the case may be, shall be issued only in such modified form as may be agreed upon by both the houses. This is when you are making provisions of Companies Act applicable to LLP. Provisions of Companies Act, if you want to make it applicable to LLP, you have to lay it before the parliament. Only if parliament approves it, then provisions can be made applicable. Provisions can be made applicable. So these are the things to be kept in mind with respect to LLP. Differences and all you can manage. I don't think so it is necessary to bring it out as a discussion point. So you can make it out.
So with respect to differences. So these are the important provisions to be kept in mind with respect to limited liability partnership. Beyond this, there is nothing important in LLP. These things, if you remember, more than sufficient. Any questions that will be asked in the examination can be answered by these particular provisions. So this is it. Your other law part, whatever I had taken up as a part of crash course. I feel that these things, if you prepare well, or if you focus on these areas, it will be more than sufficient to complete your 40 marks area. So 30 plus 10 is what I'm speaking about. 40 marks area, whatever is there, you can easily cover up this in your examination, provided you prepare well from these 4 chapters. So what I have made an effort is just to highlight on certain important areas that may form an important part in your examination. So beyond this, if you have any doubts, you can definitely get back to me. You can connect me through my social media. If you have any doubts, you can just ping me on any of my social medias. You can definitely get in touch and you can get the doubts solved. So all the best for your examination. Even now, if you have any doubts, you can just put it up in the chat box. We can have a discussion and then I'll wind up the session for you. So if no doubts, then definitely I'll be winding up the session now. All the best for your examination. Please do well. Please study well the other law part, because definitely it is a scoring area. You can score well in this particular paper. And corporate law as well as other law as a whole, if I consider, it's a scoring area, and definitely the papers can be targeted for scoring exemptions. You can definitely target for exemptions in these papers. Please do well. Please prepare well. And definitely score well. Yes. Don't wait for any extensions from institute. Already institute has given something. Now don't go with the hype that is created in the social media, because we don't know. The institute may or institute may not. We are no one to judge what institute will do. But let us not participate in all those debates that are going on, or let us not divert ourselves with all those debates what are going on. Just stay focused to your examination. If it has to happen, definitely examination will be conducted on same dates. You just proceed ahead. So don't anticipate for any postponement. Don't anticipate or don't sit and wait for any postponement and say that if it is postponed or it may be postponed, so I'll start preparing later. Please don't do all those things. Stay focused. Prepare well. If at all institute postpones it, then it's going to be a bonus for you. You can prepare more well. So you can prepare for 20 marks extra. Otherwise, please stay completely dedicated for this course. Don't get diverted with all these things. Better you avoid all the social medias altogether. Yes. So on that note, we'll end the class for today. Thank you. Take care. Have a good day. All the best for your examinations.